Welcome to SEO 101, your introductory course on search engine optimization. So, turn on your computers, open your minds, grab your mouse, and get ready to get back to the basics. SEO 101 on webmasterradio.fm is now in session.
Hello and welcome to SEO 101 on WMR.fm, episode number 414. This is Ross Dunn, CEO of Stepforth Web Marketing, and my co-host is my company's senior SEO, Scott Van Ack. Having a good day, bud?
I'm having a great day.
Awesome.
Having a great day, as always. Every day is a great day, right?
Yeah. Okay. Well, on that note, let's jump into this. We got a tighter day, tighter show. So let's see here. We're talking about Google Search Console. Apparently, it's lost performance data.
Yeah, it seems like, we should actually have, so this is kind of in our other news section. We almost need a new section called bugs or something, because there always seem to be bugs to talk about. Google Search Console lost a bunch of data between, August 23rd and 24th. Almost said October. I guess I'm psychic now.
Yeah.
To give you an idea, so the data they lost was within the performance reports. The performance report sort of showcases things like impressions, clicks, average position, click-through rate. Anyone that goes into Search Console often probably looks at that data every time they log in. So that's like kind of the first thing you look at. And for the 23rd and 24th, there was a big loss in data. John Mueller had actually said, it looks like this is really data loss and it will not be backfilled. So that's not good. It is important to note, this is not an actual loss of traffic to your site. This is only the reporting within Search Console. So if you see this and you look in the performance report and your traffic has crashed, it hasn't. Well, maybe it has, but if it shows it in the performance report, that doesn't mean it's crashed. It's a separate issue. So just to be wary of that, the data will not be backfilled. So if you are in a position like us, when you're doing SEO and reporting to clients, you might want to make a note of that if that's data that you include in your reports, because your clients will see that and see, oh man, everything's bad, but it actually might not be. So just another round of bugs over at Search Console that we are getting used to, I guess.
It's interesting how segmented their systems are, because you would think in a way that they could grab this from Google Analytics or that they'd share data, but I guess they don't, because they're not saying Google Analytics lost any of this data.
Yeah, so they must be pulling it from multiple spots. I don't know exactly how that data correlates in their systems, but it's never identical. Like you look at the clicks in Search Console and you match it up with your clicks from Google Organic in Analytics, and it's never the same number.
Yeah, come think of it, that's really a silly thing for me to say, because it is entirely different how they accumulate that data. Google Search Console is from within their systems, and Analytics is from our website with that code that's embedded. So I guess that makes sense. But I don't know. Google Search Console data is very interesting. It's very helpful at times, but then it's also a little bit vague at times as well. So I don't know. It's probably not a big deal for anyone, but then again, big companies will feel this. A lot of their data aggregators, reporting tools drag from Google Search Console, and this gap will be very obvious, glaring issue, I bet.
Well, especially if you don't know that there was a bug that was reported and that this issue actually occurred, there are going to be a lot of people freaking out about that.
Google's probably not going to send out a report or a bulletin.
Probably not. I haven't seen any that they should, though. There really should be a message in Google Search Console, but I haven't seen one related to this. Not yet.
Let's
anyways.
Hope they got it. Yeah, because I'm sure that'll save them a lot of grief, because there'll be a lot of support calls.
Absolutely.
Wow. So Google made 4,500 changes to search in 2020, and if you compare that, in 2019, they made 3,200 changes. And in 2010, they did about one a day. I wonder, I guess that, it's a long time. It's 11 years in 2010, 365 changes. I wonder how true that is, or that's just public facing figures. I don't know.
So the 2010 number, I'm not sure where the 4,500 change figure came from. I believe that was actually in like was it in the Google blog or something? I saw it somewhere. I think I saw it in search engine land. But I don't remember if they said Google said in the year 2020. So that's from Google itself. And so that's, yeah, Google displaying those numbers for us. That was, here it is here in blog.google. So yeah, so that's their own figures, 4,500. It's crazy
Micro
though, like
changes, right?
yeah, so those are changes largely ranking or algorithmic or user interface changes or other related changes within. I believe it's limited to like Search Console and or maybe not even Search Console, just within search. So that may not be organic ranking based, but it could be the way knowledge graph is displayed. It could be all kinds of little tweaks that they're doing in the way things are displayed, not just how they're ranked. But that's a lot.
Yeah, so including organic, it would be organic, it could be shopping. It could be, I mean, they got so many different platforms and different viewpoints now. Universal search, all that, bringing everything in. It makes sense now that all that would exponentially grow the amount of changes that are being made.
Yeah, but it's crazy though to think like, 10 years ago it was a one a day, from one a day to 12, 13 a day.
Yeah,
it's big.
Wow.
It just, what it shows is that the dynamic nature of search is growing more or less exponentially. They used to be, if you saw a change in search results, that was like a huge news thing. And now it's like, well, it happened an hour ago and it's happening again now. Like it's so commonplace. Nobody really freaks out unless something's dramatic.
Yeah, we're always watching for core updates, but these minor updates are just always going on. So that's interesting to see.
I was looking, speaking of core updates, I was thinking about that, and we're seeing, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 core updates a year now, give or take. And I was looking back, like, how often did the Google dance really happen in the past? I couldn't remember because it's been so long. And that was about every 30 to 40 days, so about 10 to 12 times a year, that major Google dance. And what a difference. And that was like all encompassing. Those are all the changes for that month, all in one shot, kind of thing.
Yeah, so and that would change all rankings.
Oh, it'd be super dramatic.
Yeah.
That was interesting
weird.
Back then.
It's weird to think that that's how it worked then. But now it's all just accumulative. It's ongoing. Happens every, like, you could reload a page and you'll see different rankings. It's just how it works.
It's crazy. Like, I remember, you'd post some new content for a client and then you'd wait 6 weeks to see what happens. And now you post new content, and sometimes, like, I've seen it happen within a minute. It's ranking for, if it's a niche kind of news based type search, it's ranking immediately. It's incredible, really.
Wow. Things are always changing. It keeps us busy, so that's good. All right, so Google link spam update done rolling out. Whoa, big deal. At least we have approval, right? We know what's going on. We knew there was a link spam update. Apparently, Google has increased its ability to identify and nullify link spam. They're always going to keep trying to do that. We talked about this before. It's always going to be difficult. The simple fact is, there are legitimate reasons for people to guest post. There's legitimate reasons for a link to appear there. Now, will Google throw the baby out with the bathwater? I wouldn't doubt it, but they also have to be careful. If they do that, they're definitely taking some value out of their algorithm. So I would say that you're generally going to be safe doing a lot of that still, if you're doing it to build links, doing guest posts and sponsorships. If you go with Google guidelines, you're supposed to be very clear that that's a sponsored link, and if you're doing a guest post, that this is a sponsored link in a sense. So if you don't, it's just you're just paying a bit of a game with Google, and it might bite you in the butt. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, one thing that's important to note too is that Google is mostly looking at nullifying bad links and not necessarily penalizing for them. So
yeah,
unless you're actively doing some massive spam campaign, I wouldn't worry about it. If you're, like you said, a guest post or something, kind of the worst thing that's going to happen is it just won't count. But you still might get traffic from it. There might be other benefits, but you're not going to get a penalty and see your rankings dramatically go down as a result of this update. You shouldn't.
Always be marketing. So whenever you're doing any kind of guest posting, make sure it is in a place that is of good quality, that will drive traffic in its own right. That way you're always going to win. That's the way I look at it anyway. All right. So something I saw today made me just do a triple take. And this is definitely going to make waves. So Chrome beta. Now, Chrome is the browser many of us use. I love it. It's definitely got its quirks, but it's excellent. It can display competitors when customers are on your website. I'll repeat that again. It now can display competitors when your customers are on your site. So I thought, what the? So this is how it works. Essentially, and I've only seen screenshots. I haven't used this yet because you need to use Chrome beta and I haven't installed that. But it's been proven that when you, let's say someone's on your website, if the person using Chrome beta has opted in, it is opt-in, thank goodness for now anyway, to this feature, and I'm going to see what they actually call it. I don't recall whether there's an actual name for it yet.
Continuous search.
Continuous search. And it will show below the URL for your website, it'll show a ranking for another website or an advertisement for another website. The example shown here is you're on a website called Dick's Sporting Goods. And above there, when you're looking through the page, you'll see best men's golf shoes, golfdigest.com. And you can click there and leave Dick's Sporting Goods and go to that site. I don't like this. I mean, Scott and I were talking about the pros and cons of this and how you can see it from both sides. And it's true, but I don't like this simply because, I mean, from a user's perspective, maybe it's really cool that you can go to a new place that might actually have what you're looking for, or you can see some comparative pricing, etc. But think how hard it is to get people to your website these days. There's knowledge panels, there's snippets, there's all these different things that Google uses to try to keep you within their site, make your experience high quality in their opinion. So when you finally get that traffic to your website, do you really want another opportunity for someone to leave it? No, you don't. So they had better be very careful with this feature. It is opt-in. If they start pushing it, if they start saying, hey, do you know we have this? And click here to opt in, they should get their hands slapped, simply because unless you can choose a different search engine for this, it is stinking to high heaven that they're breaking some laws. Anyway, I don't know, what are your thoughts, Scott?
Yeah, we were talking, and I always try to look at it from a different perspective, even though I hate this idea. But if I'm an end user and I'm, researching golf shoes, that extra link is going to be helpful. Like Dick's Sporting Goods is going to hate it if I click on it and go buy them somewhere else. But for me as a user, that could be awesome. But as an SEO and someone who also has a couple websites, I would hate this, absolutely hate it. And so I'm kind of torn with how I feel about it. I've got to put two different hats on. But who's Google going to bow down to at the end of the day, the end user or the web owners? Because I think that's what sort of matters to them, is if it's a beneficial feature for their users, and there's no legal reason why they can't, why wouldn't they? But what I think they'll do to get around it is they're going to issue some sort of an HTML tag you throw on your website that says, like the old days of the no ODP tag. It'll be like no continuous search tag. And so if you don't want those listings appearing on your website or above your website in your browser, you have to have this tag, and then Google won't show it or something like that. And then they'll say, well, you can turn it off if you want to. Well, of course, everyone would turn it off if they knew about it, but
creepiness. I'm really going to be interested to see whether or not this sees the light of day. I expect it will, and I expect they'll just add it to their antitrust suit.
Yeah, I feel like it might be an interesting aspect if they did it but kept it internal. So if you're on the Dick's Sporting Goods site looking at golf shoes, they would show you links up there in that toolbar for other pages on that existing website that Google thinks are highly relevant to what you're looking at. I think that would be a more useful way, and you wouldn't tick anybody off.
Yeah, no, I agree. That would be pretty handy. And, I believe, by looking at this screenshot, we can only see partial. I wonder if there are other, it says continuous search. I wonder if you can scroll to see other ones. It looks like you can. The side scroll. Ah, dear. Anyway, well, we'll see how this pans out in the end. All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about some local SEO news.
SEO 101 will be back right after recess.
Are you looking for the best in WordPress speed, security, and scalability? WP Engine is a digital experience platform for WordPress, powering digital experiences for large brands around the world. With easy-to-use site management tools and powerful do-it-your-way development features, WP Engine gives you the flexibility to build it your way. Improve your SEO and conversion rates with a faster site on WP Engine. Learn more on WPEngine.com.
Here's the truth you need to know about podcasting. The biggest problem you face right now as a future podcaster is the myth that it takes an enormous amount of time or effort to produce a high-quality professional podcast. Luckily for you, there's a solution to your problem. If you're an online marketer who really needs to grow an audience of buyers but can't do all the heavy lifting alone, then here's the solution you're looking for. Introducing the DFY Podcasting System. Here's what you get: 30 minutes of one-on-one training, a weekly podcast for you or your company, distribution to almost every podcast portal, an embeddable player for your website, an ebook called How to Podcast created for WMR.FM show hosts, and much, much more. And best of all, you'll start seeing results with the DFY podcast system within a couple of weeks. You're just one podcast away from growing brand awareness and engagement in your business. Log on to podcast.wmr.fm and sign up for a deeply discounted rate today. That's podcast.wmr.fm.
Okay, class, take your seats and no talking. Recess is over and SEO 101 is back in session, only on webmasterradio.fm.
Welcome back to SEO 101 on WMR.fm, hosted by myself, Ross Dunn, CEO of Stepforth Web Marketing, and my company's senior SEO, Scott Van Ack. All right, so looking at the local search forum, which I always like to check, there was this interesting piece where one of the members noted that an address line in local results said that a particular school was next to a business. In this case, I'm not even sure I'm going to be able to say this. And I'll quote
Do it,
here.
Ross.
The address
Do it.
line states that the school is next to Bawarchi Biryani. I think it's a restaurant. He says, I'm curious how that description got in there. They also have another location with a similar description behind 7-Eleven. And that's also in the Google My Business listing. Really interesting. And the reason that showed up is because it is in their address field. They actually put it in there to make it simple, in their mind, to make it simpler for people to understand where they are. Now, this on the outside sounds really interesting and useful. But Joy Hawkins makes a really good point here. She says, I definitely wouldn't suggest doing this because it could screw up screw up driving directions and other automatic features. Interesting. Yeah, I wouldn't have thought of that. But driving directions are pretty key these days. I think that this brings up the opportunity, though, that you could have another section or another a way to say where you are close to or what you're next to that is a fairly large or significant landmark. That would make things easier for anyone who is, briefly looking at where they need to go and could use some support. Anyway, it's just one of these things that was seen in the wild and never seen before in my life. I think it's really cool.
That would be useful if Google added an extra address line for that type of information, so they could still display it, but not incorporate it into any maps, directions, that sort of thing. Right.
Yeah. So it doesn't affect it negatively. All right. So if you're into news in the SEO world, you may have noticed that there's been some hullabaloo about title changes, Google changing your title. And they're doing it more so than they have before. Well, first of all, John Mueller has, I'll let you do this part and I'll break into the
Oh, okay, sure. You bet. Yeah. So Google, they've been known to update and change the title displayed in the search results for, I don't even know, decades, maybe decades plural. It's not something new, but things have been changing, but we've been seeing a bit more of it. And Kevin Indig asked via Twitter, if Google rewrites my title, does it take keywords in the title into account when it measures the relevance of a page based on the new or old title? I pretty much was sure I could guess the answer, but John replied, no. This just changes the displayed titles. It does not change the ranking or take anything different into account. So essentially what he's saying is if Google changes the title and your keywords are pulled from the title you created, that doesn't have any SEO bearing at all on how your site is ranking. But of course, in my opinion, that will affect click-through rate, which can have an impact. Maybe better, maybe worse, who knows? But that's good to know, so you don't have to panic, not completely panic anyways. Maybe you do. But we saw a little bit of background information here. So there was a small study done, and they spoke about this on Search Engine Land. A small study of 500 keywords across 10 websites. So we're talking quite small, done by Twitter user Bowtied Wookie. So there you go, Bowtie.
I love that name.
Like, is Bowtie his first name or his last name? Is he Wookie? Anyways, whatever. So these are some data points from his small study, which I found kind of interesting. They found that the shorter the title, the less likely Google was to change it. The average character count Google was using on these altered title tags was 52 characters. So I think the max is still around 65 characters. So, a little bit shorter than your max limit there. Google will change the title approximately 95% of the time if emojis or weird characters are used. So if you're using like weird ASCII characters or trying to put emojis in your title, they don't like that. I feel like we talked about that maybe a few months ago where there were emojis appearing in the SERPs with listings. And I haven't seen that for a while. I always thought it was
cool. I'm like, damn, I want that. But then, because it does make it stand out, frankly. But I'm not surprised they're finally making a move on that and saying no.
Yeah, exactly, right. So it kind of makes sense, and I haven't seen a lot of examples, but now Google's like, clearly they don't like it. So they also noticed that if Google does change the title, it is pulling it in the heading 1 or from the heading 1 tag approximately 50% of the time or greater. So if you are finding Google's not using your title and you want them to use something specific, try placing that content in it in H1 and you should be okay. So maybe they'll pull it from that instead. We'll see, I guess. But that's the gist on that, Bart. But I think Ross has some more here too to talk about.
Yeah, I just realized the picture I placed here is too small for me to see.
Can we send you the link? Oh, okay.
That's all right. I got it. Okay, so as a follow-up to this, I know I heard that Lily Ray, one of the more vocal people in our industry, which is very helpful in many cases, had mentioned that there's some issues with this, and I thought, well, I'd look it up. And she had a great example on Twitter of what titles looked like before and how they look after Google's meddled with them. And in short, it showed that there was definitely a drop in what you would call a chances for someone to click through. I would say definitely. Obviously, there's not statistically definitely, but here's some examples. So here's a very good, probably very well researched title: 11 Reasons for Belly Button Pain. Medical News Today. Get right there. You look at it. You see that it's got 11. It immediately mentions the issue, belly button pain, and then it says Medical News Today, which shows some authority. Well, that has been changed by Google to common causes of belly button pain, Medical News Today. So it takes out the 11 reasons, which is something I think everyone's tested and has seen that, lists always work really well for click-throughs. So all of a sudden that's gone. Yeah, sure. There's maybe an inherent, you can assume there's a link, some sort of list there, but just the same, it's not so good. The next one also was adjusted in a poor way, I think. This is the SEO version: pain around belly button, 10 belly button pain causes and more. someone's typing in pain around my belly button, this is where, they're going to show up in a ranking, and it's going to be pretty compelling to click on that. Google changes it to what causes stomach pain around the belly button, Boy Health. So they've even added the business name at the end, which frankly doesn't say much for authority. Boy, I don't know why Boy would be used for the name, but anyway, definitely less definitely less likely to be a click through in my opinion. There were some others as well, but I think we've had enough about belly button pain.
My belly button's starting to hurt. I don't think it's ever hurt in my life, but today, I don't know.
So I guess it comes down to this, is it affecting you? And there are a few tools. Someone had created a follow-up article. It's on Search Engine Land. It's written by George Nguyen, and it says 4 tools to check for title changes in the search engine result pages, so SERPs. And they talk about Ahrefs, Rank Ranger, and SEMrush. But mainly Rank Ranger and Ahrefs are the ones that they suggest using. And they walk you through how to look at it before and after. So I do suggest looking at it. I'm not going to get into explaining it because it's more visual than anything. It would be very stupid to try and walk you through, but do check it out. 4 tools to check for title changes in the SERPs. Just check that out on Search Engine Land, and I'm sure you'll get all the information you need to find out whether or not you're being poached by Google. And keep an eye on this. We certainly will, and we'll keep you updated on the show. I don't know how this is going to shake out. No one really likes to see Google mess with their visibility or their click-through rates, I should say. This isn't affecting search rankings, like in terms of your actual visibility. That's why I wanted to make sure I mentioned that. It's just, you may have the same ranking, but you may not be as attractive as a click-through as it was before. There you go. It's a bit of a shorter show today, but I hope you found that helpful. If you have any questions you'd like to share with us, please feel free to post them on our Facebook group, easily found by searching SEO 101 Podcast on Facebook. We're starting to get a little more active in there. Scott's posting some interesting news. I'm going to try to do the same, and just try to get some discussion going. So please do jump in there. We'd love to see you and have some chats, and hopefully get your questions for the show. Have a great week, and remember to tune into future episodes, which air every week on WMR.fm.
Great. Thanks for listening, everyone.
The opinions expressed on this program are those of the guests and hosts and do not necessarily reflect those of webmasterradio.fm's management or sponsors. Any rebroadcast or redistribution without authorized consent of webmasterradio.fm is prohibited.